Welcome to the Live Free, Love Life podcast, where we discuss how to create more freedom so we can love our lives no matter what we're going through. Hello, friend. Welcome to the very first episode of Live Free, Love Life. I am your host, Mindy Neal. I am a master certified life coach. I have coached thousands and thousands of amazing humans. I stopped counting my coaching sessions at 10,000, and it was a couple years ago. So between all of that experience, plus my education, my training, my certification, all of that combined, I have become an expert in the human experience. So human thinking, our human brain, human feelings, our human behavior, all the things that we do and why we do them. And I started thinking about what is it that people get from working with me? So I started to think about my experience because I am my first client. I always coach myself first. And then the same with my clients. What is it that they get from working with me? And I came up with one word, and that word is freedom. So let me explain what I mean. Most of us think we have freedom, right? If you are one of my fellow Americans, for example, you may be thinking, already free, already have that, but not really. Because there's so many places in our lives where we feel stuck, where we feel trapped, where we feel like we don't really have choices. And a lot of times we're not even aware of it. We just think that's how the world is, and we don't really pay attention to that lack of freedom. If you can't do what you want, you aren't free. If you can't say what you want, you aren't free. If you can't be exactly who you are without holding back or pretending, you aren't free. If you can't live the way you want to live, you aren't free. If you can't show up the way you want to show up, meaning you can't seem to do the things you say you want to do, like exercise or eating a certain way, or stop doing the things you say you don't want to do, like spending a lot of time on your phone, you aren't free. If you can't show up the way you want to, you're not free. If your time isn't yours to do whatever you want with, you aren't free. If you can't follow your dreams, you aren't free. So let me give you some examples. I am divorced and I don't feel very free when it comes to my kids because I can't decide when to be with them and when to not be with them. The court decides some of that. My ex-husband decides some of that. I don't feel very free there. I also don't feel free to parent my kids the way that I want to, raise them the way I want to, and to give them the kind of childhood that I want them to have, because I have literally no say in what happens at the other house. What my ex-husband does with them, what he says to them, no control over here. I don't feel very free. I'm also now remarried in a blended family. I don't feel much freedom in my own home a lot of times because my husband parents his kids the way he wants to, and it often feels like I don't really have much to say about it. And I often feel trapped, stuck, less free than I would like to be. I also have Lyme disease. Lyme disease makes me so tired that sometimes it feels like I can't even get out of bed. I can't function. I can't think. I can't do all the things that I want to do. I don't feel free. And when we don't feel free, it's really hard to love our lives. And you may not have these exact same experiences that I do, but you have different ones. You have places in your life that maybe you don't feel free. And because of that, it's hard to love your life the way you want to love your life. So all of us humans, we want to be happy, right? That's the thing that we're always searching for, that elusive happiness out there in the sky. We always want to be happy, but it feels impossible to be happy and to love our lives when we're dealing with some of these things. There are so many things that we as humans go through. Maybe you have children who are making choices that you don't really love. Maybe you've lost a loved one. Maybe you have chronic pain or illness, or you're watching someone you love go through those things. Maybe you're struggling with infertility. Maybe you hate your job, or you don't have the amount of money that you want in your bank account. All of us have circumstances in our lives that feel like they keep us from loving our life, from being happy, or at least as happy as we want to be, or from loving our life as much as we want to. And those are the places where we are not feeling free. So how do we get this freedom, right? If freedom is the answer, how the heck do we do that? You can create freedom. You can just claim the freedom that's already yours. You can go get it for yourself. It doesn't matter what words we use, but what we want to do is start focusing on, oh, if I'm not loving life, it's probably because I don't feel as free as I could. And the more freedom we create or claim or go after or give to ourselves, the easier it will be to love your life and to be happy no matter what you're going through. So I used to not really love my life very much. And My circumstances haven't changed very much. I'm still divorced. I still have to say goodbye to my kids half the time. I still have an ex who does things exes do. I am still in a blended family, and my husband has an ex and she does the things that she does. And my husband parents the way he's going to parent. My stepkids do the things they're going to do. And all of those things are still happening. But I love my life on a totally different level. And I'm so much happier. I'm not talking about the kind of happy where we ignore all of everything that's going on. That's what I used to do. I used to be one of those, I have lemons, I should make lemonade. And I didn't really pay attention to my feelings. I didn't pay attention to where I really was feeling trapped or stuck because I just wanted to gloss over it and think happy thoughts and everything would be fine. That's not the kind of happiness I'm talking about. I'm talking about true, fulfilling joy that comes from within, where you can truly just be in love with your life, even though all those things are still happening. That is what we are going to talk about on this podcast. It's creating more freedom so that we are able to do that. So let's talk about freedom for a minute. Usually when we talk about freedom, the first thing that comes to our mind is like freedom from tyranny, right? If you get on social media right now or turn on the news, you're going to see stories about Israel or stories about Ukraine or all the other wars that are going on in the world. People are literally giving their lives for freedom. As humans, we have this innate desire. It's something deep within the recesses of our soul. We yearn for freedom. That's why we're willing to fight for it. But this desire for freedom, it goes way beyond political things, way beyond that great big level. I'm talking about the freedom to make our own choices, to shape the experience of our own life, to have that autonomy, to have the kind of life that we want to have. That's the kind of freedom that I'm talking about. When we feel stuck, we feel trapped. We intellectually know we have a choice, but it doesn't really feel like a choice, right? If you only have crappy choices, then it doesn't really feel like you have a choice. Or feeling like you have to do things or you have to be a certain way. All of that lack of freedom in our lives keeps us from loving it, keeps us from the happiness that we want. It keeps us from even being our best selves. So it's not just tyranny. And the more freedom that we acquire for ourselves, the more responsibility we have. Eleanor Roosevelt once said, freedom makes a huge requirement of every human being. With freedom comes responsibility. So as we develop more freedom, we also need to take on more responsibility. So some of that is like the responsibility of your life. If you aren't happy, it's on you. It's your responsibility to do whatever it takes to be happy. It is your responsibility to be healthy. It is your responsibility to have good relationships. It's nobody else's, it's yours. So with freedom, the freedom to choose also comes responsibility. And the more responsibility we take, the more freedom we actually create for ourselves. Because when we take responsibility, we free ourselves from victim mentality. So victim mentality includes blaming, excuses, justifying, hiding, covering up, avoiding, complaining, demanding, entitlement, self-pity, procrastinating, indecision. These are all parts of victim mentality. And the more responsibility we create, the more we free ourselves from those things. And we don't realize every single one of those things that I just mentioned, those are all shackles. If you just imagine, those are things that are keeping you in bondage, which is not what we want. That makes it really hard to live our life. The pursuit of freedom encompasses the ability to determine our own life experiences. I'm sure you've all heard of Viktor Frankl, right? He was a Holocaust survivor, a renowned psychiatrist, and he said so many amazing things. He's brilliant. But one of them was, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. So even in the most challenging circumstances, even when Viktor Frankl's freedom was literally taken away, right? He was locked up. He couldn't do all the things that he wanted to do. He couldn't even live his own life. And yet he still sought for freedom within himself, because that is what we as humans do. And he created his own freedom in his situation. And that enabled him to have a totally different experience in those camps than a lot of other people had. So we can choose our attitudes, we can choose our responses, we can choose our interpretation, and those all allow us to shape the experience of our life. Now, when I say we can choose our responses, a lot of us don't think that's true, right? Have you ever yelled at your kids and you don't feel like you really chose to do it, right? Given the choice, if I could yell at my kids or be super loving towards my kids, if those are the two choices placed in front of me, I'm probably not going to choose to yell at my kids. And yet I still find myself yelling at my kids. So it doesn't really feel like a choice. And that is where we want to create freedom. What is it that happened that has me yelling at my kids without me consciously making a choice? how do I give myself the freedom there to actually make a conscious choice of what I want to do in the scenario, who I want to be in the scenario? That's the kind of freedom that I'm talking about. True happiness often begins with a sense of freedom. It is the feeling of liberation from self-imposed limitations and societal constraints. All those people telling us what to do all the time. We don't even realize how much of our own freedom we are giving to other people to tell us how to live. So it's the freedom to be who you really are, to pursue your passion, to make choices that really align with what you feel is right. It is the freedom to be who you want to be, to do what you want to do without any limitations. This is where we feel the most happy, when we are free to do all those things. So I've broken this down into, 7 things that we will go into more and more detail throughout the podcast. We'll take one by one and we'll just talk about them. So the first one is cherishing yourself. And I use this word cherish on purpose. If you ever join one of my programs, you will understand that cherish is a different level of love. So I don't actually say loving yourself. I call it cherishing yourself. To live free means embracing who you are. When you accept yourself as you are and you allow yourself to just be you, you pave the way for a more joyful life. This is so key. And so many of us were never taught how to do this. And a lot of us have a lot of limiting beliefs about it. When you love yourself, you're being selfish or greedy or whatever all those words are. I'm talking when you really, truly learn how to cherish yourself, your joy is going to skyrocket. Okay, number 2 is managing your mind. So your thoughts, not you. When you learn how to manage your mind, rather than letting it manage you, you gain the freedom over your own thoughts. You are free to change your perspective. Often it's our own perspective that keeps us in bondage. Those are the shackles. And this allows you to free yourself from that, to actually change your perspective. That means you don't have to believe everything your brain offers, which makes happiness a billion times more accessible. Number 3, healing your feelings. So a lot of emotions like fear, self-doubt, overwhelm, shame, they can be crippling, right? Freedom allows you to feel your feelings without reacting to them or letting them control you. You are breaking free from their shackles. This gives you the freedom to be who you want to be, do what you want to do, right? That's like showing up in the situation as who you want to be. So if I don't want to yell at my kids, when I learn how to feel my feelings, then I can feel frustrated or angry or whatever it is I'm feeling without actually reacting to it and yelling at my kids. Then I can show up as the mom I want to be, even though that anger or frustration may still be there. This obviously puts you on the path to a happier, more fulfilling existence. Number 4, accepting reality. When you are not busy arguing with reality, you are free to create. So many of us are spending so much time and energy arguing with what is. That's like wishing things were different, thinking things should be different, thinking things are not going the way they're supposed to. All of that, that's arguing with reality. And it takes away all of the time and energy we could spend just creating what we want instead. So to create the life you want, the relationships you want, the body you want, the marriage you want, the career you want, the money you want, you have to be free to do that. And when you're arguing with reality, you are not free to do that. It's taking up all your time and energy. So when you can create what you want, being as follows. Number 5, taking responsibility. We've talked about this. When you take responsibility, you free yourself from victim mentality. All those things I talked about. I'm going to say these slowly. Think about the ways in which these keep you stuck, or they keep you trapped, or they keep you from moving forward or creating what you want. Or you know what? It could be easier to see in other people. You could think about that if you want, and then apply it to yourself later. Blaming, making excuses, justifying, hiding, covering up, avoiding, complaining, demanding, entitlement, self-pity, procrastinating, indecision. These are all things that keep happiness out of reach. Think of what your life would be like if you could free yourself from all of these things. Number 6, embracing your choices. Even in challenging circumstances, freedom lies in your capacity to make choices. When you exercise this power, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, it gives you a sense of autonomy and control over your life, which leads to more happiness. Too many of us, we're walking around doing things on default without actually making conscious choices that give us that sense of freedom that enable us to love our lives. Okay, number 7, pursuing passions. Freedom grants you the opportunity to pursue your passions wholeheartedly. Happiness naturally follows when you do what you love as you align with your true self. So this is what Live Free, Love Life is all about. I really hope you will join me on this journey as we discuss how to create more freedom for ourselves, or just claim it or take it or allow ourselves to have it. Whatever it is, we want to give ourselves more freedom so that you can truly love your life at the highest level, no matter what you're going through. You do not have to wait to be happy. You do not have to wait to love your life until whatever that thing is that you are dealing with is over. You also don't have to try to escape that thing before you can live your life, before you can be happy. We can do these things in the circumstances in which we are already in. And when we start to free ourselves from all these shackles, it is also likely that gives us more freedom to actually change some of those circumstances. It's not that we just change our mind about everything and we just live with all the circumstances we don't love. If there are circumstances we don't love, we want to give ourselves the freedom to change them if we want to. And there are some that we can't change, right? If you lose someone to death, you can't change that. There's absolutely nothing you can do to change that circumstance. So in those, we still want to give ourselves the freedom to enjoy our lives while that exists. So that's what we'll be talking about on this podcast, is how to create more freedom so that you can love your life. Live free, love life, my friends. Thank you for watching this episode of Live Free, Love Life. Please subscribe to my channel and don't forget to like, comment, and share. See you next time.